The Masters in Special Education current student panel discussion. My name is Tom Crash. I'm our Director of Graduate Admissions. I appreciate everybody, whether you're watching live or watching the recording, taking time out of your busy schedule to spend time with us to learn more about your future in the graduate programs in special education here at Commonwealth U. The event should take probably around 45 minutes. We have a great panel of students here with us. We'll be, going through their experiences in the program. Again, this event is being recorded. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Dr. Drogan or myself. We are certainly always more than happy to help. But before we go any further, if we could have our panelists introduce themselves, and we can start with Dr. Drogan.
Hi, my name is Robin Drogan. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Early Childhood Education and Exceptionality Programs. And in that department, we have special ed programs. And so we're going to talk about special ed graduate programs today, and welcome.
And Dr. Drogan, where did you go to school?
I went to Bloomsburg University for my graduate programs myself. I was in the Masters of Science program that we'll talk about tonight, one of the programs we'll talk about tonight. Thank you for reminding me to share.
And were you a former teacher in the classroom?
I was a teacher for 15 years in the classroom with students with different types of disabilities, elementary, middle, and high school, and transition age, and in both Maryland and in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Excellent. And do you have any specific areas of research that you concentrate on?
I do. I work a lot with students with challenging behavior and working on helping people to understand and better implement classroom management strategies, and with students with more complex instructional needs, so students with more moderate and severe disabilities. And working with families, I'm really passionate about our relationships with families and our team relationships. So those are the areas I would highlight. And I've taught a lot of the students, all the students that are in this panel. So I am really delighted to bring these students here to share their experiences with you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Drogan. Melissa.
Okay, I'm Melissa Pike, and I am a student in the Special Ed Masters of Education program. I started in May of 2023, and in August, I was able to get my special ed certification. I have a background in math, so I have my teaching certification in secondary math as well, and I got the opportunity to teach a learning support math class. And now that I have that special ed certification, I'm able to be the full-time teacher in that class.
Excellent. That's great. Great. Thank you, Melissa. Jacob.
Hello, guys. My name is Jake Reefer. I'm from the Bloomsburg area here. I graduated at Bloomsburg University this past May. I did my special education cert and my elementary together education, so I can do that as well. My student taught in May as well, and I ran through my practicum and all that good stuff. And now I'm in the Master's of Science in Special Education here at Bloomsburg University. I'm going through that. I started in the summer, and I'll be continuing that through the fall and next year as well. So that is kind of my background here.
Great. Thank you. Lucy.
Hi, I'm Lucy Ashton. I am from the Philadelphia area, but I graduated from Bloom in 2020 with a degree in exercise science. I wanted to do occupational therapy with children. So I worked at a preschool for students with a developmental delay, took a TA position, ended up getting emergency certified in teaching during the pandemic, and then kind of found my passion for teaching. So I worked for another year, and then I came back to Bloom to do my master's in education. So I'm in the dual program. I was initial since my undergrad was in a science background. So I started in August of 2022, and I'm finishing up now in student teaching. Right now, my placement is Columbia Montour Votech in learning support English, and then I'll also be in the Hazleton area supporting second graders there. So that's my story.
That's really interesting. Yeah, background in exercise science. That's something that Dr. Drogan will talk about probably at some point during the night, is you don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's degree in special education to get into one of our master's programs. We've got an abundance of programs that can help meet all of our prospective students kind of where they're at with their academic career. So there's a number of, I guess, what I would call on-ramps into the special education grad program. So that's great to know. Silvana.
Hey, you guys, how are y'all? My name's Savannah Downs. I am enrolled in the special education master's and certification program. I just started last January, so this is my third semester enrolled in the program. I am actually currently a special education teacher. I work in the Philadelphia area. I've been doing that for about 3.5, 4 years now. I'm just super excited to be here. Super excited to like be able to talk with you guys and like use my knowledge and talk about like the relationship between like working and like being in school and how I can use that information in real time.
Excellent. Thank you, Silvana. Appreciate it. So before we go, too deep into the panel discussion, I know Dr. Drogan was just going to give us a couple highlights about the program, among them being the abundance of programs that we have. So it's not just a single master's degree. We basically have something for everybody. Dr. Drogan, do you have more information?
Okay, so let me just tell you about our programs. We have a Master's of Education in Special Education, which is a certification program that has 3 concentrations. So many of the participants here, the panelists here, are in these programs. One is the initial certification, which Lucy and Silvana mentioned they're in. So they're getting their first certification area. The advanced certification that Melissa's in, she had a certification area and now she's getting the special ed certification also, or she just did, which is great. And then Jake, who's in, and the third concentration in the Master's of Education is new, and it's called an intern certification. And the intern certification is a unique opportunity that the state has where you can take your test and get an intern certificate, which is a teaching certificate type. And then while you're doing that, you're student teaching and taking some courses. And it's a bit of an abbreviated or accelerated path as well. So we have that program, which is we're on PDE's website approved for that now. That's great. We also have the Master's of Science, which is not a certification, teaching certification track. So like Jake had also already had his teaching cert, and now he is expanding his knowledge in special education. Typically people will specialize in an area and say, I really want to get deeper into this. And so that's what the Master's of Science is for. Or in his program, he has the flexibility to get some other program options we have. They can be separated, or you could get it in the Master's of Science. Those options are special ed supervisory certification, so that could be separated, or in the Master's of Science, where you are taking the courses and internship for special ed supervisory certification through the state, or this social emotional behavioral endorsement or autism endorsements. We have 2 endorsements now, and those endorsements can be either embedded in the Master's of Science or they can be taken separately as grad. So that's exciting. The one thing I wanted to mention, Tom, before we go on, because you heard parts of this as you had the introductions, is that we have people in the field working in the field already under emergency permits. Let me just mention that special ed is a critical high need area in the state right now. There are jobs all over the state, people who need special ed teachers. And because of that, like I mentioned, there are multiple paths to getting certification while you're teaching. So we'll hear a little about it through people who've had this experience, but essentially people are either getting an intern certificate, which I mentioned we have that program, or an emergency permit with the district, and coming in and having an educational obligation where, okay, I need to take the courses and get certified, and we can help to support that. Or we can help to support people like Lucy, who came in from another area. They didn't have an education background. They want to be a teacher. We want to get people into the field of special education who are passionate about working with students who have diverse needs.
Yeah, there's a national teaching shortage, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So there is the demand has never been higher, not only for educators, but for special educators as well.
In particular, yes, correct.
Absolutely. And Dr. Drogan, I always remember you saying that, you have a ton of school districts that are in your inbox, like, hey, you need, if you have anyone you can send us, so it's not always even just like going to a job board. Sometimes the connections that our faculty have precede a lot of our graduates, where it's like, oh, like, because Dr. Drogan knows someone at this school district, So those connections become very important.
And we thought this was
Yes.
like an area that was, this was a problem that was more, in urban areas and stuff, but it is impacting all of the districts now, and local districts as well, all over the state are contacting us to get special education teachers. We cannot put enough people out at each graduating class for the number of requests we're having for special ed teachers in particular. So this is definitely a very timely request that that you come and seek out the programs, and also we work with you to do it in the time frame that you need. So like Melissa did it very quickly. Districts are saying we need it in by this time. People need it in immediately, and we're trying to work as hard as we can to get people certified in a way where they're getting a quality experience and that they are prepared to be in those classrooms.
Yeah, yep, that's great news. Great news. So first question here is, can you all just walk me through your background, right? What was your path to getting to the, our grad programs in special education? What was the origin story for you as a special educator? Melissa.
Okay. So like I said, before, I have that math certification, and I actually did not use that certification for a long time. I spent some time at home with my kids, and I spent some time teaching preschool. And about 3 years ago, I decided to try to get back into the realm of public education. So I took a job as a paraprofessional at the middle school for 1 year, and kind of got to dabble in helping out in some special education classrooms. The following year, I got the opportunity to take a 1 year position teaching a learning support math class, which required me to get this emergency special ed certification. And once I got that position, I started looking into different programs to get my special ed certification. So I came across this program at Bloomsburg that worked out great for me because it allowed me to work and get the certification at the same time, which was really what I needed. So that's kind of how I got there.
Excellent. And now, how did you decide that you were ready to make kind of a career switch almost? What was the deciding factor for you saying, I think I want to go in this direction?
So the class that I'm teaching now, I got to help out in that class. And I, before then, didn't actually realize that I didn't really know that much about special ed. I didn't know that there was math special ed. And once I walked into that kind of classroom, I was like, this feels like the job I never knew that I wanted. So it was really, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Jacob.
So like the way I kind of saw it was I have more of a personal connection to special ed. So before I even got to college, I have an older sister that has a disability. So I grew up with her and I took care of her for like a while. And going into my senior year of high school, I did a life skills program at Central to help students with disabilities. And it kind of just I just kind of clinged on to that, and I kept it going into my freshman year of college. And I had some great professors, and I started out really well, and it just kept going throughout the 4 years. I enjoyed it a lot. I have a passion for it. I enjoy it dearly. And throughout my student teaching, it got even better. The high school experience I had was great. And I had a lot of elementary experience throughout my 4 years with my professors as well. So it kind of, for me, it's more of a personal situation. Then it grew on me to even more. And I got to the grad program, and now I'm learning a concentration of special ed. So it's big. It's been an awesome experience, and I dearly enjoy special ed and teaching students with disabilities.
So Jacob, what was your deciding factor? Because I would imagine you probably could have entered the job market as soon as you finished your bachelor's degree, given the demand. But you chose to stay for the master's. What were some of the deciding factors there?
So just some of the deciding factors. I understand that I could have got a job right away, but I had a few talks with Dr. Drogan and Stephanie Gardner as well at the university, and there was definitely a path for me to get more information on my degree and get more concentration on that. So I decided to go back right away and get it done and stay in school 1 or 2 more years. And I was also playing a college sport here, so that kind of decided in the role as well. But I decided to just go right into it and keep going as my teaching, just to get more knowledge on it.
Yeah, it's definitely a situation where at some point you're going to need the master's, right? So there's an advantage to getting getting that earlier in your career as opposed to later. So, you know, I totally understand that. No, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Jacob. Lucy.
So similar to Jake, I have an older sister with autism. So I've seen, you know, her go through an education. And I've also unfortunately seen the pitfalls of education as she's experienced her schooling. So that was kind of a personal factor that made me want to go back. But I think as I was out in the field right when I graduated college, gaining experience for my other path that I thought was for me, I saw that there was such a high need for special educators. In the current education system. You know, it was during the pandemic, so teachers were kind of dipping out of the field, and then these students were struggling with hybrid learning, being at home. So that was kind of a main deciding factor for me. But I think also working with families too, and realizing that they needed someone that can advocate for their kid, that can be a connector to them from the classroom, can explain things to them that are in an accommodating and an appropriate way where they understand what's going on with their kid, was also a big deciding factor for me too. So I wanted to have more of an education and more of a background to be able to spread that to people that needed it the most. So Bloomsburg really had a good path for me and a good plan that I was able to get a certification, get core knowledge in the field, but also be able to expand on that at a graduate level. So taking grad core classes also really helped me. Special education law was something that I really still benefit from today. So that was nice that the program had what I needed, but I could also build on that foundational knowledge.
Sure. No, that's great. Great. I appreciate that. So what was the transition like from exercise science, which is what your undergrad degree is, into the master's in special education?
Yeah, so it was definitely challenging. But I think what really made it easy for me is that I had that passion and that drive to know more. And I also had that experience as well. So as much as I was working with the kids and getting to know them and their team and getting to be more familiar with an education setting, I just didn't have that knowledge. So being able to be back in the classroom and kind of put two and two together, having that real life experience, but then also having the knowledge, that made the transition a lot easier for me.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely a field where you know, passion, enthusiasm takes you really far. You know, and granted, it's like that for a lot of careers as well. But I think the one thing that you always love to see in this field and in our grad program is people who, like, they're not just punching in and punching out. You know, is people like, they genuinely, this is a part of their identity. This is who they are. They wear their special educator role like on their sleeve, and I think that's really reassuring. You know, and hearing everyone's background of how you got here, you could have done anything, but you chose to come here. You chose this field, and I think that's a great sign.
And I always say special ed teachers are special ed leaders. And because there are a lot of roles that a special ed teacher takes that are unique, like advocacy and support and family involvement and all of these areas that are just unique to the special ed field. So I look at these teachers as leaders, and then we also have programs that will help to build their leadership skills because of those unique roles that they will serve in.
Yeah, that's a great point. Absolutely. And Silvana.
So not to go too far back, right? But in my undergrad, I got my undergrad in applied psychology. And I really always had a passion for mental health in general, right? Once I graduated my undergrad, I started doing TSS work. So I got to work one-on-one with a lot of kiddos who had autism. So that was really just like kind of my spark and where I like got my start from. Where I'm at now, I started working at the school, and I started as, you know, a regular education teacher. Didn't really fit right for me. A special education position kind of popped up, interviewed for it, got the position. And from there, you know, again, I've been in the position for about 3.5 years now. So like just seeing like how the students in my classroom and seeing how the other students in the building as a whole, not really necessarily are treated, but like seeing like the lack of information, seeing the lack of knowledge that other teachers do or don't have. Seeing that like a lot of the students are really like unfortunately being failed by the system, kind of really just like drove me to go back to school. Obviously, with me being in the position, I have to, you know, I eventually would have had to go back to get my certification regardless. But you know, at this point, like I talked to Dr. Drogan a lot about this, just me wanting to be more of like an advocate, not just for the students, but for the faculty in the building, because again, the lack of knowledge is very severe. There's teachers that, you know, don't know that it's a part of their job to, you know, help educate these students. There's people in leadership that are scared to even, you know, go near students that have disabilities or whatever. And, you know, so again, my passion comes from just wanting to kind of like bridge that gap, be more knowledgeable for myself, just so I can advocate for them as best as I can and like spread the knowledge throughout, you know, where I'm at and whoever I'm able to touch. So that's pretty much my story.
Yeah, there's not many careers where you're truly going to like make a career out of making a difference. You know, special ed is going to be one of those, and that's great. That's great. So we talked a little bit about your background, about your path to the career. As we get more into the program itself, so would you be able to talk about some of the coursework in particular? What were some of some of your favorite classes that you took while you were in the program? And actually, we could probably start with Dr. Jogan, and maybe if you wouldn't mind
Let me
telling
just,
us what your
let me
favorite
frame
classes.
it a little. The
Yeah, okay.
programs all have a common master's core. In the master's core, like we mentioned, are like special ed law, current issues in special ed. For some of the programs, there's a curricular design for inclusive course. Like, so the master's core, there's a research core course. Those are like all the graduate students take them, and they're really about research to practice. Then all of the students here that are in the M.Ed, the Master's of Education, they have certification courses, okay? So those are methods courses to teach. And then the Masters of Science is a bit more flexible. They have like those specialization areas or other certification areas. So you can specialize more, take courses in areas where it's like more on autism or more on social emotional behavioral wellness, or just you could take a mix of courses because you want to just get more information about those areas of special education. So they're broken up into that kind of master's core and then the other courses that you're taking to support what you're going to do for your future goals. That's how I would explain how the courses are set up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Dr. Drogan, do you have one in particular that you're like, this is the one when it's all my
It's hard because I'm biased. The ones I teach, I don't know. I will say that in the master's course, I'm biased because special ed law to me is special because I love to understand better the intent of the law, like the intent of the law, like why was this law put into place and who is it protecting and why do we do it? And then looking at, a lot of people are about like check off, cross the T, dot the I compliance. But like we look at the law as like, how is this benefiting other people and how can we do a good job at making sure that the law, that we're looking at the intention and the compliance with the law. So I love that course. It's in the summer, so it's fast and intense, but I get to see a lot of the grad students in it, and I love that course. I teach a course in working with students with more significant disabilities. I have a passion about that course again because of its connection to families and its connection to people who, that again it's a little more specialized in the instructional strategies work with students with more significant disabilities. So I have a passion about that, but I also teach a foundational course that all ed students take for grads. And I love teaching it because again, it's about bringing out the passion of working with some students that have some diverse needs and it's like to Savannah's point, getting people on the same page to understand that all students are all of our responsibility. And that we as educators need to really get to know students in a way that we can help them to make progress. So, I mean, I think all the classes are great. I could talk forever about them. I love to teach. But I will also say the field-based stuff is great. So like we have all, like my course, I teach about working with students with more complex needs. We have a field-based component in that 10 hours. And I love getting out in the field with students, the student teaching, like we we really focus on trying to ensure that you're getting knowledge and skills to be able to then implement in the field, and really making that connection with the field and getting you out there in the cert pieces. And then in the non-cert, in the MS, really looking at how to develop your skills to be a more intentional professional.
No, that's great. Thank you, Dr. Drogan. So Melissa, if you had to, now this is a tough question, especially with Dr. Drogan here, right?
It doesn't
So
have to be mine. No.
you have to pick one of Dr. Drogan's, right? So
No.
what was the most impactful one? What was the one that you maybe found the most enjoyable?
So I don't know that I could pick one, so I have it narrowed down to two. The first is the assessment course. And I'll preface this by saying I've just taken the certification courses so far. So the assessment course for me, it was mostly new information because I hadn't been around, in the realm of learning support before. So it was really great that I would be able to like learn about a part of an IEP, and like 2 days later I'd be at an IEP meeting and I could really like understand why all of that was there. So I really enjoyed that, and it helped just reading reports and reading evaluations and things like that. So I found that class to be very helpful in my day to day. And I will say the other one is the class with Dr. Drogan with the more severe needs, mostly because it really pushed me out of my comfort zone, especially the field-based and getting in there and getting to experience kind of that higher level support classroom was really impactful for me. And I'm glad that I had that experience.
Great. Thank you. Jacob.
I would say, kind of piggybacking a little bit off Dr. Jorgen, because she taught me in this one, but I did the practicum at BU right before my student teaching experience. And that was probably one of the best experiences other than my student teaching experience, just because it just prepared me for what was to come, what my experience would be. It got me, I think, a lot better at teaching wise. It was more foundational because of just the way that the information was brought to me and the amount of connections I made through that experience, and with all my colleagues that were in my classes as well. So I think the practicum is just something that you should do before you student teach, like in the undergrad, just because the amount of information you get and the direction you can get out of that is very important for special ed.
And grad students can do a practicum sometimes. We were trying to get one into Lucy's program and we didn't, but we can sometimes fit that in. But also, I've taken grad interns into practicums before so that they're playing a leadership role in that practicum as well. So there are lots of opportunities, again, to get in the field in different ways that are really beneficial.
Yeah, yep, that's a great point. Lucy.
So I'll kind of piggyback off of what Dr. Drogan said, but special education law was really one that hit home for me, and I think really sparked an interest in just gaining knowledge. And again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, making information accessible to families and supporters and even students, because so many just don't know the special education laws and the information around that. So that was really helpful in just using that in the field, and just kind of looking at what parents need to know and what students need to know about special education. But I think positive behavior supports also was a really nice class for me, learning how to support students who exhibit behaviors in the classroom in a meaningful way that can get them to improve. And then also being able to differentiate, their behaviors and learning it's not a one size fits all approach when it comes to behavior. So gaining those strategies and kind of looking at students individually and figuring out what can work for them has been helpful in the field too.
So we've heard the special education law class a couple times now. It sounds kind of intimidating, but everyone really enjoys it. So, Dr. Drogan or Lucy or Jacob, would you be able to talk about what are some of the things, like what are the units that are covered? What are some of the course topics that you might review in that class?
You guys want me to take the lead on this, or you? I'll start us off. The class is really awesome because it's set up around looking at the foundational laws that are related to special ed. And then each week we look at specific case law that has been tried, and look at the outcomes of those laws and the case law. And we really talk and tease out, like, what does that mean for us in schools, and how we can prevent from being in these situations that are litigative, and also how can we, again, be better at ensuring that we are following the intent of the law and being compliant with the law. So we use cases as example, and there are a lot of PA cases, but also cases from all over the country where there have been suits that have come up between families and districts as related to what we do in special ed, to our provision of service for students with disabilities. So it's really, I think, interesting because you read the cases and it's intense because you're reading and writing a lot, but you are learning just practical information from what's happened, real situations, real cases, all real cases that we're constantly evaluating and understanding better how our actions are impacting families.
Yeah. Well, and that supports the idea that, you know, your point that special education teachers are leaders. So if you're
Yeah.
going to lead, you kind of have to understand kind of the lay of the land and the laws that might
Yeah.
support or impact your students. So that's
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah, so in undergrad, you know, everyone gets basic law, special ed law information on the basic special ed laws, but this really dives deeper. So when I look at the master's score, I always think about really getting a bit deeper into the issues that you're going to see every day in the class in your districts.
Sure. No, thank you. Silvana.
So again, I just started in January, so I don't have a lot of classes up under my belt, but one of the classes that I really enjoyed was the tech classes for individuals with exceptionalities. Again, talking about like being able to use the knowledge that is being taught in school and like using that in real time in the classrooms, that tech course was extremely helpful. Just to give an example, one of the things that we learned was how to build a website on Google Sites. And I was able to kind of like use that knowledge and create a website for my families. So, you know, all the information was on there, information about me, my portfolio, the class schedule, just everything that they needed was in that place. And I just like shared that amongst leadership in my school, and they were like really amazed. So that's just one of the things that I learned from that class. And you know, with us being it's 2024, like everything is about technology now. Like education, you have to know how to use technology. So being able to like gain that knowledge really kind of like put me a step forward in like just learning like different educational things, and like again, me being able to be an anchor for like other people knowing those different things. So the tech course was like pretty awesome to me. It was fun.
Silvana, do you have any other? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Joe.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. After that, I have two things I want to pull off of what she said.
Yeah, are there any other examples of some of the things that you learned to do while you were in that class? Any other software programs or anything else you could expand?
One of the other things that we did is we did like a tools presentation. So we was able to research like 20 different tools from different special education reading tools, from different like PECS programs and communication programs for students who are nonverbal. It was a it was a whole lot of different like, you know, like technical things that again that could just like help aid us in the classroom. Like there were even some things that I could like bring to my supervisor and be like, hey, I think this could will benefit from this. And like just, you know, being able to like do a little deeper dive in the research of different like curriculums and stuff like that within the tech course, and like different apps and things that are cost effective, things that, you know, are not cost effective, but the school may cover. Like just like gaining that knowledge is another thing that we kind of dove deep into.
So yeah, that's what I was going to say. One of the things is we use assistive technology in special education. So that course goes into some of the general things. And then Silvana was explaining some of the things it's special ed specific, like PACS is like a communication system, or aiding students who don't use voice as their language. Like there are lots of technology. We're so lucky to have technology, and our professors really trying to get as much information out to students so that they can use those technologies in the field when they're there. The other thing Silvana reminded me of is just like our classes are at night. Like, so she mentioned she only took a few classes. Some of that's because when you're teaching full time, you have a choice of how many classes you want to take at a time. Melissa went quicker. So she went and took like 2 to 3 classes a semester on top of teaching full time. She did it a bit more accelerated. That's like a very, very full load. You'll work with your advisor to find out what the plan that's best for you is. So Silvana is taking a slower route to that. Correct me if I'm wrong, 1 class per semester right now or 2?
So this is the first semester that I'm taking 2
Two.
classes.
Good, yeah. So because, if you want to get them done in a timely manner, it helps to take more than 1. But again, it's a little tricky when you're teaching. So she went in a little slower, like, let me take 1 at a time at first. Now she's going in with 2, which I think is a great plan. And so then she'll move forward with that. But we have night options, I guess I wanted to say, most importantly, we have options at night for classes so that if you're teaching full time, you could do that, or if you have a job during the day. And we have about a half of the courses online regularly. And then we have other options that come up as needed online. So we do have in-person classes and online classes depending, and we have night options for all the classes. We do have some summer offerings as well, like the special ed law class we talked about is a summer course. And then sometimes we have winter, but not as regularly.
Yeah, and I think that not only the abundance of programs and the variability, but also the delivery of the programs is very flexible too.
Yes.
So truly, you've got, again, had something for everybody.
Mhm.
And also, it also kind of takes into account, are you currently working, or you're a
Mhm.
current educator, or, like Jacob, you're a full-time grad student, I think you mentioned,
Right,
right?
that's
So
right.
like it can be adjusted based on who the student is. So that's
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
So the student teaching experience, and I recognize that everybody is student taught at this point in their career. Can we get into that? And Dr. Drogan, would you be able to give us an overview of the student teaching expectations and kind of what that might look like for a typical student?
Yeah. So in the typical MED program, which not everyone's in a typical program, but in the typical one, student teaching is in 1 semester for 16 weeks. And typically it's 8 weeks and 8 weeks. You might do 2 placements. So Lucy did 2 placements for sure. But Melissa was in a program where she did the student teaching over multiple semesters because the state required that in her program. And in the intern concentration of the MED, they require that as well, a year-long student teaching. So it's over 2 semesters. So traditional path, 1 semester, non-traditional path, or like an intern certificate or more accelerated, might be over 2 semesters, depending. Again, like you said, it's like we figure out the plan based on what your needs are and what your specific circumstances with what you're coming in with and what you're doing, and for your goals. So I think those all impact the way student teaching will look. Student teaching is that you're in the field all day, every day. Melissa and Silvana were under emergency permit. Melissa was originally and Silvana is now. So they're teaching full time so that when they go with an emergency permit type 1, you can student teach in the field where you're working and get paid in that job and student teach at that same time. That's the only those programs in which you're under either an emergency permit type 1 or an intern certificate are the only ways to do that, to work and get paid while you're student teaching in that setting.
Okay.
Otherwise, that you're non-paid, you're going to into the classroom every day. There are grants right now through the state to get funding so that student teachers get some money for student teaching, and their cooperating teachers get more money. So there are initiatives right now pushing money out into student teaching for both the students and the cooperating teachers. So that people have been happy about the opportunity to ensure that we're supporting people that are going into education, because we need educators. Okay. Where would you like us to go next?
Thank you, Froze.
Okay, well, we're going to keep going then. So let's see. Let me think of the next question will be, what do you think, how do you think this program supported you? What supports might have been in place, or did you feel, or have you felt that that helped are helping you to either, complete your classes or complete your program? Melissa, I think we're starting with you.
Okay. I feel like, well, especially as we talked about that, I kind of completed this with my teaching as my job, that the program was very adaptable, that I was able to take the assignments and perform them in my classroom or in my building with other learning support teachers. So that was helpful. The faculty was all very supportive. I feel like all of my instructors, I was able to reach out at any time if I had questions or if I needed extra support on things. And also in my program, there was a group of students that we mostly had the same classes together, which is really nice that we got to kind of know each other and we could reach out and talk to each other if we had problems and kind of connect about the different things that we had going on.
Thank you. Okay, the screen jumped around a little, so I'm going to go, Jake, I'm going to go to you next. I think you were next.
Yeah, I would say more kind of just about the program is like the professors that have are just awesome and have so many connections. That is something that I always highlight. Just to be able to get a job, I know it's relatively easier right now, but it's still a process to do that. And I think the professors here in the education department do a great job at that. And I always give them props for that. They have they're some of the nicest people, and they are very, very helpful, and you can pretty much go to them for mostly anything, and they always have like just an answer for you. So I really give them props for their connections and just how good of people they are, and that stuff goes a long way just for everybody. So that's kind of what my 2 cents would be on that.
Thank you, Jake. That's nice. I did not pay him to say that. Lucy.
I think coming in, I really enjoyed how the program was set up, especially as I was coming in as an initial student. So being able to get the core knowledge in classes, but also being able to upgrade my thinking in a way by being with grad students and hearing about their experiences and taking those grad level classes helped me kind of combine the two to make me a better educator and to ultimately go out into the field as a grad student. So that was one way this program really supported me. But also, again, the faculty, I know we've all said it, but the faculty was so supportive. I needed a more kind of upped track due to my job at the time and needing to take kind of more on. So my advisor, Dr. Gardner, was really supportive in me doing that and kind of let me take the lead on that, but also just let me know that she was there if anything got to be too much and did check-ins with me. So I think that was a really nice way to come back to BU, come back into the initial program and feel supported by faculty that I wasn't too familiar with. So it all felt very comfortable, and I really did feel so much support during my time.
Good. Savannah.
So, I've already talked about like a little bit about how, just being in school, like learning all the material, being able to use that in real time, since I am in the field currently. But I did want to just like touch a little bit about like home life. Like, I've been out of school for 9 years, right? And I just had a baby. I have a 1-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. So I'm a mother. I'm a full-time mother. I work full-time, and I go to class, I go to school. So like that would not be possible without the wonderful professors and the way the program is set up, me being able to take classes, one classes or two classes, like being able to be flexible with the program has like really helped a lot. Like, and again, the professors are amazing, like not even just to like they're amazing. If I have to turn my camera off to like tend to the baby really quick, or if I'm maybe like running late on something because I have like the kids are sick or something like that. So I just wanted to like kind of highlight that because I do know there is a lot of people going back to school years later who may have full-blown families, a husband or a wife or kids, and I just wanted to like let everyone know like it's possible. So like, my life is like nonstop busy, but I'm still able to fit in, this programming because of the type of support that, the faculty here has given me. So.
Sorry,
Go- Yeah,
internet.
no, we went on with what kinds of supports have helped them while they've been here. Since
Oh,
they all
great.
have such diverse backgrounds, it was helpful to just hear a little about how the program has supported them to be successful.
Sure. And did everyone get a chance to talk about their student teaching experiences? Because
I'm
that
not
might be where we go next. And Lucy, would you mind kicking us off? You said you did student teach at this point?
She is now.
So,
She's in.
yeah,
student
I'm currently
teaching.
student
Oh,
teaching
great.
now. So I'm at the VOTEC in Learning Support English. So that's been a lot of fun. I'm familiar with learning support, but I wasn't familiar with a VOTEC setting. So getting to see high schoolers in their element in their shops, but also being able to support them in the classroom, and then also being able to combine that so that they feel supported in their shops, has been a lot of fun. It's been a new learning environment for me, but I think it's also refreshing being back out into the field and spending time with students, and seeing that aha moment is always like a nice reward to your day, and you can go home feeling satisfied with what you've done and making connections. So it's been really nice to be back out into the field. And then I'll be wrapping that up mid-October, and then I'll be back in Hazleton working with second graders. So I have a split placement for my major, but it's been a lot of fun.
And what does a typical day entail then for someone who's doing their student teaching?
So you're following your cooperating teacher schedule. So it's based on the teacher that you are with. So my typical day right now is about 7:30 to 3:30. That's typically the time my co-teacher comes to school and leaves school. So you're following the school day with the students. You're following his or her caseload, and you're supporting the students in a way that the teacher you're working under supports them.
Right.
So like someone like in Lucy's situation, where she did more traditional masters of education, where she took her courses and then at the end she did her student teaching. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lucy, you don't have any classes this semester other than your student teaching and your seminar.
Yeah, correct.
Correct. So she has a seminar she's taking with it where they have assignments, and she has like lesson plans that she teaches and assignments in her student teaching and in the seminar. They get together. How often do you get together in seminar to talk about your student teaching experience?
That's once every week. So it's a night class.
Yeah, so they take that. Whereas like Melissa's student teaching, she took courses while she was student teaching because she was in an accelerated under an emergency permit. So we need to get her certified as quickly as possible. So because of that, she was student teaching, and she took, some courses at the same time. And in the intern program that happens as well. Silvana might be in that situation as well, where she'll take some classes with it, which is different. Like it just because like what Silvana was saying, like you have so much on your plate and then you're doing this as well. But we've really been successful. And that's what we're talking about, the supports. Like Melissa did it and she, she got her job. Like it that she was able to do the student teaching and the classes because it's all about what she's doing in the field and trying to make those assignments and that content relevant to what she's doing every day. And then Jake did the student teaching in his undergraduate program. So he doesn't need to student teach now. The only way he'll be field-based, like very field-based, is if he does like the special ed supervisory certification, has an internship that's 300 hours in it that the state requires. And both endorsements, social, emotional, behavioral, and autism, have field-based capstone experiences.
That's great. Does anybody else have anything to expand on with their student teaching? No? Okay. And then that kind of gets us in, towards the bottom. We're almost, about an hour here. Do you have any advice for any prospective students who may be considering the program? Anything that you wish you would have known prior to starting or prior to applying? Any guidance? And actually, Dr. Drogan, do you mind kicking us off?
Good question. I think that's a great question. I have to think on this one. I mean, I think that's a great question. I think I love to see new people come into the program, and I always love like Melissa. I remember the first time I met her. Like Lucy, I remember Lucy started a while ago, and like you remember that first interaction or the first few interactions. Like Silvana said, I remember each of these people at the beginning of the program, and then you see them grow and you see them be successful and get their certification and get their first job, or you see them become that leader that they have these abilities and you see them and then they move into those, and it's so amazing to remember why we're all here and how we're just continuing to grow. So our program's all about continuing to gain new skills to grow. And each of these individuals showcases that. But I think, it's just like amazing to see people from the beginning of the program to the end of the program. So I would just say, do it. Come and start the journey, because it's a great experience, and we learn from each other. That's kind of like our motto here, is we learn from each other. I learn as much from these students as they learn from me. Or is that I hope they learn from me.
That is good advice. Hard to beat that. Jacob.
I would kind of a little piggyback off that. Just the amount of experience you can get from this program and the amount of information you get from it as well. I think that really makes it, a more professional background and more informational as well. Just the professors are awesome as well. I go back to that. It just helps a lot to get through it. And because the work is not exactly easy, I would say. There's a lot of research involved, and it does take a team to get through it, but it's worth it. It does make you more of a leader. In my classes I have right now are leadership right now, and certain things I didn't realize that you could be a leader at. I'm learning that right now. So I would say there's a lot of new information, but you have to embrace it and just take it head on, because it makes you a lot better, and the information you get is just second to none. So I would say the program does an excellent job at getting you ready for the outside of college.
Great. Thanks, Jacob. Lucy.
I think one thing that I learned is that it can be scary to take the leap. I took 2 years off between undergrad and grad. So I think going back to grad school, the only mindset I had was that I will be the only person doing this. I will be the only person who took a gap year. I will be the only person who has like time between. But I think once you jump into the program, you'll realize that everyone has different experiences and everyone's basically in the same boat as you. I think what's nice about this grad program is that it can also be accommodating to your needs. So going into the grad program, seeing everyone's at different parts in their lives, everyone has different structures in their lives, but also seeing that the program was also different for everyone else was something that I have enjoyed about this program, and reassured me that everyone took the leap at the same time, and we all ended up okay. So I think it's important to just kind of get yourself over the hump of the fear that can sometimes be associated with grad school and going back, because you will find people in your class or in your cohort or in your area that are in the same boat as you, and can really be there to support you and lift you up during grad school.
Yeah, the one thing with the special education graduate programs is it's a team sport. It's a very close-knit community. And I think that not only with faculty, but with cohorts, with current students, and it makes the experience not only better, but more enjoyable, right? Like you're more likely to finish because there's a group of you who are going through this, right? And you guys are all kind of going through this together at the same time. So that's a great point, Lucy. Thanks. Melissa.
So, I mean, I could say the same thing, like, don't be afraid. It was like 15 years since I had been in college, and I was definitely the person that said, I am never going back. I would never do it. And it was a Friday night that I talked to Dr. Drogan on the phone, and she was like, if you want to do this, classes start on Monday, but we can do it. And I think my husband thought I was insane when I said, what if I start college on Monday? But I did it. And so it was, and I don't regret it at all. It was great. So I feel like you can do it.
Tom, I hope she's
afraid.
not getting me in trouble. That means your team was getting her in the system.
No,
that's where we are.
We're happy to do it. We're happy to do it now. And those always seem to be the famous last words when people graduate. Like, I am never going back to school. That's almost a sign where it's like, nah, you're definitely going back. Yeah. So anyone watching, if you find yourself saying that, that's normally a clear indicator you will in fact will be coming back. Yeah. That's great. Silvana.
So I had the same advice. Don't be afraid. But just to piggyback off of that, really make sure that you have a passion for this work. Yeah. Like if you really have a passion for this work, I'm not saying that it's easy, but it's rewarding in every type of way. So again, definitely like have a passion Don't be afraid. You know, we have people coming back after 15 years, people coming back after 9 years, people starting, you know, right away. It's worth it. Like, and again, if you have the passion for it, get the knowledge, make an impact, be an advocate. That's it.
Yeah, this is an investment. This is an investment in your future career. And again, it's a career that you're going to have a profound impact on the student and the family and the supporters. So this is, you're going to make a difference. And I think that that's a big deal. So either way, thank you everybody who joined us live, or if you're watching the recording. Again, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to Dr. Drogan or myself. We're always happy to help. Our panelists, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to following your storied careers in the field of education. And
Yeah,
thanks,
please
everybody.
call and let us know so I can help you find a path. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.